for recording it. Excellent. Okay, we also have both ASL and Spanish interpretation for our meeting today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jorge Guzman, who's going to explain for everyone how we can use the Spanish channel.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm going to take a minute to explain in Spanish how people can access this information in Spanish. Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Jorge Guzmán y voy a estar interpretando el día de hoy la información que se estará compartiendo. En la parte de abajo hay un icono que dice Interpretation. Para las personas que deseen esta información en español, pueden hacer clic en ese icono y seleccionar el canal de español. Yo voy a estar dando toda esta información en ese canal, así que si hay personas interesadas en recibir esta información en español, nos vemos ahí en un minuto. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Jorge. We appreciate you being our Spanish interpreter today. We also have Pamela Garland joining us for ASL interpretation. My name is Cassie Clark, and I'm an engagement coordinator here at Oregon Housing and Community Services, and I will be facilitating today's public hearing. I want to run through a few logistical items before we get started. So please make sure your microphones are muted and that you have added your name and affiliation to your Zoom profile. Our goal today is to introduce the process for submitting public feedback on OHCS's draft Preservation and Reinvestment Initiative for Community Enhancement, also known as the Price Grant application, and to inform and improve the agency's final submission. So please put questions in the chat or raise your hand after the presentation, and we will get to as many questions as possible today. For those that we are able to address today, those will be included in our FAQ, which will be posted in both Spanish and English. So now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Britt McLean to get us started today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Britt McLean, an operations and policy analyst here at OHCS and the project lead for the agency's price grant application. While you will be hearing and seeing me blather on today, this application is a huge lift encompassing several divisions and dozens of staff, and I just want to share my appreciation with them before we get started. I'll facilitate the presentation today along with Cassie Clark, who just spoke. She is our engagement specialist in affordable rental housing. And with me is also Emily Arnold, our engagement specialist from the home ownership division. Our application proposal seeks to serve manufactured housing residents and communities across the state. We're going to Housing Stability Council on Friday to share similar information and to spread the word about that the public hearing period is now open. We hope that you'll spread the word within your networks as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today's agenda, pretty straightforward. We want to walk through the price NOFO and give an overview, just do some level setting, give an outline of our price application approach, let you know of our strategy, show you the price grant webpage. You can find that directly from our homepage. Go through the public comment opportunities and process, do some questions and answers along with the opportunity for you to make a comment now. And then we'll talk about the next steps in our second public hearing. Okay, just give me 1 second. Sorry, everybody, just having a little technical issue. Give me 1 quick sec. Okay, here we go. So the HUD price NOFO goals. There are 5 main goals. Let's do a little level setting here. HUD cites data highlighting that more than 22 million Americans currently live in manufactured housing. And manufactured housing homes account for approximately 7% of occupied housing stock nationwide and about 15% in rural areas. Manufactured housing is also the largest source of unsubsidized affordable housing in the country, making it a critical piece of the nation's affordable housing stock. That means that no public resources go into subsidizing it regularly. We believe our proposal achieves each of the goals, including the national goal of our programs exclusively benefiting LMI or low and moderate income Oregonians at 80% area median income and below.
Seems that maybe
We're-
Britt has frozen, so we will just give it a minute maybe to get her audio back on.
Oh, no.
There you go. You're good, Britt. Just
Oh,
yeah,
no. Of course.
there you go. Perfect.
Okay, great. OHCS is taking a dual approach to our draft proposal. We're going to request $25 million in total grant funds to serve Oregon's manufactured homeowners, residents, and park communities. We're going to administer these resources through 2 current OHCS programs with specific price-related modifications. Those 2 programs are the Manufactured Home Repair and Rehabilitation Program and the Manufactured Dwelling Park Preservation. Opportunity to repair and rehab resources for homes within parks that are or will be preserved or transitioning into cooperative or nonprofit ownership models we're also excited about. We will leverage Oregon Affordable Housing Tax Credit with price resources to maximize the funding impact. So here you can see how you can find the price application materials. We have linked the price webpage to our homepage. Scroll to the bottom where you see the different OHCS divisions, and you will find it under Manufactured and Marina Communities. It's called Price HUD Grant Application. And here's what that webpage looks like. We have some information about how to submit a comment in writing. We have public hearing information, and we will update this webpage as soon as we have with the second public hearing information as well. At the very bottom of the webpage, you will find our complete application package. Instead of uploading separate documents, we decided to put everything into one single file, which we think would be easier for the public to review. Okay, so let's get into the HUD public engagement requirements and process. So, of course, we've been working on this application for months, and we think it's great. But the users, the manufactured home stakeholders, partners, and residents, you might have a different perspective. So we're really eager for your feedback to make the application better, and we've got several ways for you to do that. We have a few goals. Of course, we want to make our application better, but we also want to make communities aware of the application so that they have an opportunity to provide input. We want to gather actionable feedback to improve the application, meaning we want to gather feedback that would align with the NOFO rules and requirements. We want to fix any errors and adjust any data points in the application that you might catch. And we want to ensure that the application reflects statewide need and a shared vision for addressing it. Your input is needed. We have an online survey that is focused on a few main areas. First, we want to hear from folks who have firsthand experience either accessing our programs or administering programs that are similar to the ones that we are proposing. We really need your perspective. Are there specific NOFO rules or requirements that you've reviewed and you think that our application has missed? We definitely want to hear that. Do you believe that there are specific errors in the application? Is there something that's outdated or something that maybe there's new information that we're not quite aware of? Do you have additional data that you're willing to share to support OHCS's application? We want to hear from you if that's true. Is there anything confusing that needs additional clarity? For us, we are sort of up to our necks in this work all day in and out, and some pieces might need additional clarification, additional language. So we definitely want to know if you find anything confusing. And then we leave some space in the online survey for any other type of feedback that you want to provide. You are able to address these areas of input in several ways, not just the online survey. But when you access the online survey, these will be the focused questions that we're hoping to get feedback on. Okay, the public comment period. These are the key components that we want you to keep, that we would love for you to keep in mind as we go through this process. The number one thing we'd like to recommend is read the NOFO. You don't have to become an expert in the NOFO, but giving it a good scan so that you have some additional context when reviewing our application, we believe will be really helpful. The OHCS public comment period starts today, June 4th, and will run through Thursday, June 20th, a total of 17 days. Please visit the webpage that we mentioned earlier. We will regularly update it with any new news, technical advisories, public hearing information, and opportunities to provide public comment. Again, there are several opportunities to do that. We will have 2 public hearings, including today's, email, online survey, and traditional mail. We'll also be offering another opportunity for in-person live public comment at our second public hearing that will be held on June 20th. We're going to recap all of the stakeholder feedback on the 20th and offer a hybrid virtual in-person session. Spanish and ASL interpretation will also be available at that hearing. OHCS application submittal goal is the week of June 24th. That is really our hope. The HUD deadline to submit is July 10th, and we want to be sure to leave enough time to address any curable deficiencies that we may not have caught when we first submitted. So that will give us a little bit of a runway to fix any errors before the July 10th deadline. Okay, so those avenues for submitting public comment. As we mentioned, live and in person, this will be an opportunity on June 20th from 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. We are currently looking for a space in Salem. It will be at either our main office building in Salem or somewhere near there if you would like to attend in person. We would certainly appreciate an RSVP if you do plan to attend in person, and you can send us that RSVP at the housinginfo@oregon.gov email. Traditional mail. Hey, if you are a paper person, we understand that. And if you would like to write down your comments or type them out, if you hate the computer, that's okay. We want to hear from you. Just review our application materials, jot down your thoughts, and send them to the address on your screen under mail. We will be posting the slides, so you don't have to memorize any addresses. We will make sure that this is available. This address is also on our price webpage. Again, you can submit comments and feedback via email at housinginfo@oregon.gov. We are asking folks to send their comments to that email address because, as we mentioned, this is a huge multi-divisional effort, and our engagement folks want to make sure that messages get to the right person. So having them all go to this email account will greatly increase the speed with which we can reply to your message. And then, of course, the online survey. You can get to that online survey via our price application webpage. And the last day to submit, again, to submit comment is June 20th. But we highly recommend that you get your comments in well before then to give us enough time to integrate your feedback. Okay, I have reached the end of my presentation. I think we're a little bit ahead of time, which is great, saving lots of time for your questions and comments. I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Emily Arnold, who's going to help me facilitate the questions and comments, and Jorge might our interpreter might chime in if we get a question on or a comment on the Spanish channel. So Emily, if you have a couple of questions teed up, I am ready to go. And I guess I should mention, sorry, Emily, sorry to interrupt. I should mention anything I'm not able to answer today, we will certainly answer offline later and add to our FAQ document. We have a lot of OHCS OHCS staff on the call today as well, and they're eager to hear any feedback that you have. They will not be able to provide any answers today. I will do my best to answer your questions as best as possible, but rest assured that they are listening.
We do have a couple questions and comments in the chat, but we're
Right.
also happy if people want to raise their hands and unmute themselves, but can start with one comment. Said clarifying the differentiation definitions between manufactured and modular would be helpful. Both are produced offsite.
Yeah, that's a great comment. I actually am also the project lead for the Modular Housing Development Fund, and there are some there are some differences that may seem like differences without a distinction, but in general, the HUD regulates the standards for manufactured housing, and the State Building Codes Division regulates standards for modular housing. So that's one difference. There are some structural and construction differences. I think what I will do, I love this question. I think it's really important. I created a one-pager last year during the development of the Modular Housing Development Fund, and I will post that. I will ask our communications team to post that to the Price webpage as well. And I think that will help. I have received some information from HUD that modular might be in certain cases might be eligible, but the agency has chosen instead, because we have established programming to fund the development, the preservation, the repair, rehabilitation, revitalization of manufactured housing already. Our strategy is really to focus on manufactured housing. And if you believe that you have a project that ought to qualify, staff will certainly talk to you about that. I hope that answers that question, but happy to answer any follow-up.
We have a couple more questions in the chat. One is, it is our understanding that OHCS is only going to apply for the 25 million. Why not the full 75 million?
Oh, that's a great question. So the full pot, and I should have mentioned this earlier, the full pot for, let me stop sharing here so we can all see each other. The full pot for the Price main and pilot programs is $235 million. The minimum amount that a grantee will receive is $5 million. HUD wants to award 25 grants approximately, which would be roughly between $8 and $9 million. We took all of this into consideration, including our internal staff capacity to administer these funds, and 25 million out of 235 million to serve the entire country felt like a right-sized approach for us. That is extremely possible for us to administer rapidly and make a huge impact on the ground. 75 million, while we recognize that HUD said that was possible, we did not think that was likely, and felt that 25 million was a reasonable, wise, and thoughtful request.
Another question in the chat is, how will determine what projects the funds will go to?
Great question. The great news is that the programs that the two programs that the funds will be administered through are mostly the program structures are mostly in place, so they will be familiar to both external partners, residents, members of the public. So that is a detailed question for program staff and you will find some information about selection criteria within the application materials, but the specifics for both programs, there is information in the application. If you would like additional information, please reach out to that housinginfo@oregon.gov email address.
Okay, we have one more question in the chat. Will each of the projects awarded have to do a HUD environmental assessment?
Yes, great question. And yes, environmental review is required. And for those on the line who have worked with our park preservation program, will probably recognize that we we don't always require those environmental reviews for park preservation, but Price does. So it is going to be extremely important that the agency administer these Price resources in compliance with the requirements, and that includes environmental review. Thank you for that question.
Okay, we had one more question come in. Is this application taking the place of any agency request for additional funding for these programs in the 2025-27 ARB?
These are, can I just say, these are excellent questions, and I think they demonstrate the depth of knowledge that folks on the line and our stakeholders have. What an awesome question. No, the agency is, for lack of a better word, jazzed to go after these resources. This is the first time that HUD has released resources for manufactured housing for these purposes, and we are eager and thrilled to go after them. But that will not alter or change our appetite for preservation resources, manufactured home resources, I will say I don't have information about what those requests are for the next biennium's budget, but this grant will not reduce what we ask for with the legislature. If anything, I think we would be able to make the argument that we would be able to pair resources together and maximize their impact between state and federal. We make the argument in our application that Oregon has skin in the game. We have contributed a lot of state and local resources to for these purposes, and we are very ready for federal investment. Our stakeholders are ready, our partners are ready, the agency is ready, staff are ready for this federal infusion of resources to pair with the state investments that we've been making for a long time, but that we all know are just not meeting the need. Great question. Thank you.
Rose, it looks like you have a question. Would you like to unmute?
I do. Let's see, a couple of questions, actually. Hi, Britt.
Hi.
Thanks for this online
Great to see you.
presentation. Yeah, good to see you. I had a question. Do you have an idea yet about kind of the ratio of funds that are going to be allocated for manufactured home repair versus manufactured dwelling park preservation? And then the second question is the state willing to be the responsible entity for the NEPA reviews?
To your first question, we will be dividing whatever resources we receive, whatever the award is, evenly between the home ownership program for repair and rehabilitation and park preservation. So whatever we receive, we will divide it evenly in half. For your second question, that's a great question. I think so, but let's discuss that offline, because I think that's worth digging into and clarifying, and definitely something that would be a good addition to our FAQ page. So let's definitely chat about how to best clarify that that requirement and who's on first.
Right. I mean, cities, counties, or the states would be available to be responsible entities. And in our experience, we don't always find, cities or counties, who have enough experience in being the responsible entity especially in rural areas. So just want to make folks aware of that.
Great point. Thank you.
Okay, I'll lower my hand. Thanks.
Looks like we have one more question that came in the chat. Are there considerations for current manufactured homeowners living in parks that rent has become so high we can no longer afford our lot rent and can't sell our homes because the new move-in rate is too high for affordable housing? Excuse me.
Thank you, Emily. There was a lot in there. Do you mind repeating that?
Yeah, for sure. Are there considerations for current manufactured homeowners living in parks that rent has become so high that we can no longer afford our lot rent and can't sell our homes because the new move-in rate is too high for affordable housing?
Thank you for that question, and I'm so glad that we have some folks, some manufactured home residents on the line. That's fantastic. To answer your question, I would say I believe the dual approach. We believe the dual approach has the potential to address situations such as yours. Please review the application, and this is exactly the kind of input that we need. So please review the application materials with the programs as outlined, and then please reach out if you believe that they would not be sufficient to address a situation like yours. That we would certainly want to take that into consideration and ensure that our main priority has to be that any eligible activities are in compliance with the price NOFO rules, but we believe that the repair investments that we're planning to make could address your situation. But again, if you review the application as we've shared it, and there is some lack, let us know, please.
It looks like we have another question in the chat. This one's also pretty long, so let me know if, Britt, you want me to repeat it. I see that CAAs are called out in the partnership section for the MHRRP. Is that just as an example or listing to CAAs? If so, is OHCS willing to open up the ability to access this to agencies who are not CAAs, but have a demonstrated history of providing weatherization and home repair programs?
Great question. I think that
Emily, this is the interpreter speaking. As I'm not familiar with many of those acronyms, would you be able to repeat the question so that I can interpret it properly with the explanation of the acronyms, please?
For sure. I think, Britt, could you also help me out, because I'm not familiar with all of these.
Yes.
So I see that community CAAs
Community action agencies.
are called out in the partnership section for the MHRRP.
The Manufactured Home Repair and Rehabilitation Program.
Is that just as an example or limiting to community action agencies? If so, is Oregon Housing and Community Services willing to open up the ability to access this to agencies who are not community action agencies, but have a demonstrated history of providing weatherization and home repair programs?
Was that okay? Was that great? Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Pamela. That's a great question. I think that the community action agencies have been our traditional partners with weatherization and with weatherization programs. I think that we are certainly planning on incorporating community action agencies as we have agreements with them. I'm not sure if that would exclude other kinds of entities, but let me, that's a great question. Let me talk to our program staff and get their thoughts. And then please submit that, that for feedback when you are submitting your public comment, because I want to include it in the FAQ and discuss that with our program staff. Thank you very much for that.
I don't have any more questions in chat, but feel free to raise your hand or put your questions in chat. Happy to hear your feedback and thoughts and questions. Still no more questions in chat, so
sorry,
I don't know if folks are done, if we could wrap up early. Up to you, Britt.
Yeah, I'll just say that we recognize being here, participating in public comment, in the public comment process is is no small ask. And the application materials right now are almost 40 pages. We have a 45-page limit, and we want to assure you, for those of you tracking at home, the questions that you will see within the application will be removed before the application is submitted. We wanted program staff, everybody who contributed to the crafting of our application, to be able to have that context of the questions to ensure that we answered them sufficiently, and for the public to know what we're talking about with each piece of our application. So rest assured, those questions will be removed. They are italicized. So most everything you see that's italicized is the HUD NOFO question. Our responses will be in, pardon me if you can hear my cat, will be a regular font. But if you have any issues reading the application and anything is confusing, again, please let us know. And deep appreciation for reviewing a 40-page application document. I'm preemptively thanking you. I think if there are no more questions or comments, please, if anyone has a comment that's not quite a question, please feel free to share that before we wrap up. Maybe we'll do that awkward 5-second wait so that folks can get their last few questions or comments in. And then we'll move to wrap up, Cassie. So let's be awkward for a few seconds.
I feel we did a good job earlier with that as well. So I will just slowly wrap us up, Britt, but great job today. Those are some really great questions that we will put together for our notes and then create that FAQ that was mentioned earlier. But if you wouldn't mind, I think sharing your screen again, Britt, and putting up those opportunities to continue to provide feedback that may come to you after we close today, which happens to me. So we hope it happens to you as well. As you saw, Emily dropped the survey link in the chat. There's also a link that Emily's going to drop in the chat that we recommend you signing up for our agency updates. And then, as Britt mentioned earlier today, we have lots of ways for you to be able to provide input. We are excited for you to take a good look at the application. And then we have another public hearing that will be in person and virtual on June 20th from 1 to 2. You can also send us a letter. That would be great. Or email at our housinginfo@oregon.gov email address. And then our online survey, as I mentioned earlier, is open through June 20th, which is the next public hearing, as well as the conclusion of all of our public comment.
Cassie, so sorry to butt in. I forgot to mention one thing. HUD requirements include a provision to provide members of the public with a physical hard copy of the application. So if you do, or someone you know does need that, please give us plenty of time to be able to coordinate that. Typically, we would partner with a local library to print off the application for you. So that will take a little bit of coordination on our end. So if you do need a physical copy of the application materials to review them, that is not a problem. We are happy to provide that. It just does take a little bit of extra work on our end. So please give us plenty of time to get that to you in time to be able to make your comments. Thank you, Cassie. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a great reminder, Britt. Thanks for doing that. And also just wanted to remind everyone to be sure to check out the Price webpage. And Britt, do you have that handy of a quick how people can find where they can stay apprised?
Yes.
And we can drop that link in the chat, maybe? Is that possible? Okay, from our main page. Gotcha. Thank you. Yep, the Price HUD grant application right there on the main page. So wonderful. So those are your ways to continue to get in touch with us about this grant application. Many thanks to Britt for all of the hard work and wrangling all of the internal folks and then getting this great feedback. So thank you to you all for making this a great application. Thanks, Britt, for putting the link in the chat. And we will have this recording posted shortly to that same webpage, and along with those FAQs that will be translated into Spanish as well. So we thank you so much for joining us today. Not seeing any further questions, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up a little bit early. And we look forward to staying in contact with you over the next couple of weeks as we finalize this application.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Jorge and Pamela. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.